What is that?
You need to get you some of these.
What is
I
it?
want a mic locker full of them. It's the Ocean Way, they Class A 47.
Yeah.
They don't claim it's a FET, but
Right.
it's a FET. It's not exact. None of them are.
Yeah.
But it sold new for $1,000.
Yeah.
And people hate on it because it's the Guitar Center model and it's the Allen Sides thing.
Right.
I bought this and that Twinfinity and a couple other just odd and ends off of a dude for like $750 in Nashville. That thing by itself sells for $8.
What is it? A Twinfinity?
The UA.
Oh, okay. Yeah, yeah.
Where you can turn the transistor or tube or blend.
Oh, cool.
You know, they have a 4 rack.
Yeah.
It's like the...
Okay.
But that's the single.
It's a compressor or
No.
preamp?
Preamp.
Preamp. Okay,
You
cool.
can do, right here, you can do transistor,
Okay.
tube,
Cool.
blend.
I used
pretty
to
cool.
have an Elisa's MEQ 232. I used to have one of those too.
This, I don't even...
It's rack space. I know.
I don't even have it. That was gift to me, and it looks cool, and I have nowhere else to put it.
I used to
It's
have
not
one.
even hooked up.
I used to have one. Yep.
But yeah, and this guy, the guy was just getting rid of all of his stuff. He was getting out of it, and he wanted $250 for it.
Yeah.
And I mean, dude.
Wow.
Will McFarland recorded some vocals over here the other day. He's like, man, this is one of the best mics in the Shoals. He said, it sounds great. And I was kind of concerned, like, I'm going to take a gamble on this because, I mean, a U47 or whatever is probably I just like them.
Yeah, it's a dream mic. For
Yeah,
sure.
but I ain't got that kind of dough.
No, I don't either.
But this console, Charles got that good deal on that API is the only reason he got rid of it.
Did he buy that new or used?
He bought it used.
You did buy it used.
Yeah,
Okay.
I don't know who. I need to ask him. I don't know the story behind all that, but he got a stupid deal on it, and so I'm making payments.
Yeah, that's the way you buy stuff. I've made payments on a lot of stuff.
Well, all right, let's get started. Dan will get here in a minute. He's stuck in traffic, so I don't want to keep you too long. You got to leave at 1, so it's
good.
right at noon.
All good.
So yeah, welcome to Tape Noise Podcast, Muscle Shoals Storytellers series. I'm Grant, and we have Jimmy Nutt with us, and Dan Williams will be on his way. So welcome, thanks. And so, yeah, we've been talking gear already. Of
course.
We need one of my favorite podcasts, the Six Figure Home Studio.
I hadn't seen that.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. Chris Graham is a mastering engineer in Ohio, and Brian Hood is a recording engineer, mostly mixing in Nashville. He's from Athens, Alabama, and they have a gear slut alert. Like they have an alarm that goes off anytime anybody gets to talking about gear. But yeah. So we were talking about my new MCI 16-channel analog console from '84.
Yep.
You've got that Trident 80B.
Right.
What year model is yours?
Well,
do you even know?
Well, I think I know. I was really shocked when I bought the console. We took it completely apart and we recapped it and gave it a, ultrasonic bath or whatever. And there were quality control stickers on the channel strips from 1996. So I didn't even know those consoles were made in 1996. I thought they were all made in the 80s.
Yeah, me too.
So they made them into the 90s, and I've had a couple of people that really know those consoles look at it and say, I think if this was not the last one built, it was one of the last ones built.
So you got a really vintage, cool console, but a newer model.
Yeah, it's a vintage design. It's all, they did.
It's not like
they
60s or whatever.
No, it's not. Yeah, the 80B, I believe, started in the 80s, the early 80s.
Right.
I think that might have been, I'm not sure if there's a correlation between it being called an 80B or not, but I think it started in the 80s. And but it was, the heritage of the TSM, Trident console. But yeah, mine's a limited edition, so it has like a 3-band EQ on the monitor section, which a lot of them didn't have.
I didn't know that.
And so it's got a few extra features and things, but it's still the basic, design of the Trident 80B. But I love the console. It's great.
Yeah, it's beautiful too. It really is a nice piece of furniture.
Thank you.
I mean, I got to admit, I like how mine looks.
Absolutely.
I know that's dorky.
It makes you look professional.
And not to hate on PV or whatever, but it doesn't look like a PV board from the 80s that you would have in some smoky bar.
No.
No. But I don't even have it hooked up. I'm going to try and get it hooked up as quick as I can.
Yeah.
But I'll just be honest with you. I'm not 100% sure how to do it. I've got to figure that out, and I've got to get some help. Bobby Coble's coming by, I think, tomorrow to try and help me out with that.
Sure.
And I've talked with Danley Murner and a couple other people. But so we're all going to probably pool our efforts. But so I'm stoked. Was that your first console? I mean, I know you had that C24 controller.
Yeah, well, it's a Pro Control, which was before the C24. Actually, I still got it, and I still use it kind of on a little rolling cart, because I mean the Pro Control is a great control surface. It's that is kind of a great example of how technology changes. The Pro Control that I've got in the control room right now was $10,000 when it came out. Okay,
that's more than I gave for this.
Yeah, $10,000. Yes, for this. Now I couldn't sell it for $300 right now because it's worth nothing, but it's worth something to me. It still works, Well,
that's the main thing. It's like the mic I'm talking in right now is not a real FET 47. It's a clone. But I've had numerous compliments of how great it sounds. I'm happy with it.
That's all that matters.
And the thing is, it's a tool.
Yeah.
I mean, so that leads me to this. What is your perspective on gear? I mean, I know we nerd out.
Yeah.
So what are your thoughts on that?
Well, it's changed over the years, to be honest with you. I mean, I think, there have been times, I've been doing this full time for 18 years, and there have been times, especially when I was building a studio or putting together a studio, where you just lust after a piece of gear, and you get fixed on it, and you think, man, if I only had this, But and I still,
that's a trap almost.
It is.
Well, not almost. It is a trap.
It is, and
get this new plug-in.
Yeah. So and I still do that somewhat. I mean, I'm looking at stuff right now that I'm kind of lusting over and thinking about and things like that. But I'm able to kind of back up and understand that our best piece of gear is the ears on the side of our head, And
amen to that.
I feel pretty confident that, it's kind of like, we were talking about our good friend Will McFarland a few minutes ago, who's a great guitar player, lives in this area, and
I would rank him as one of the top in the world.
He is one of the top in the world. But I can take that guitar right there, I can pick it up, and I can play it through an amp, and it'll sound one way, and I can hand it to Will McFarland, and it's going to sound completely different.
Oh, yeah, and that's my guitar. We're talking, I've got a, for those of you who are not in the room with us, we're in my studio here, Tell Studios in Muscle Shoals, Alabama, but the guitar we're pointing at is a Epiphone Dot, which is the lesser expensive version of the Gibson ES335, which I love that guitar.
Me too.
The funny thing that you mentioned that the other day in the studio, of course, Will may not appreciate me saying this, but I don't think he'd care because his talent, it doesn't matter. He's amazing. I have a deep respect for that guy in so many ways, but he plugged that guitar and I'm like, hey, I've got a Fender Deluxe Reverb. I've got a Vox, Mini Beetle and stuff like that in the other room. And he was like, oh, let's just plug it in Pro Tools. And we were going for a real jazzy kind of sound. And I was like, well, here's my telly if you want to play. He's like, I think we need this. Yeah. Because he usually plays the telly is why I was going to hand him my Telecaster. And he's like, well, I've got my Princeton in the car, but let's just plug this in Pro Tools and see what we can get. And I got Amplitude up. Yeah. And I just, holy crap, it sounds amazing.
Sure. It doesn't surprise me.
But I mean, it's not even a real amp.
No.
And that's how good that guy is. Exactly. But that's also how good the gear, the technology has come too.
Yeah. And I think that ties into what we're talking about as far as being an engineer, because you get to a point where you have enough experience, you've been through enough situations, you've used enough gear, you've listened to enough speakers, you've mixed enough to where you go, okay, I know how to do this. And
you get a certain level of like, I don't know. I mean, do you ever get over imposter syndrome? I mean, there's a certain level of confidence, though, I guess is what I was going to say. It's like, this is going to serve the song.
Yeah.
This may be a $50 microphone that I'm using on a vocal that's, for all practical purposes, wrong, but it sounds great, and it's right.
Yeah.
I mean, I've had to really get over the price tag.
Yeah, sure.
And it's taken me a while to do it.
Yeah. I mean, there are people making awesome records on a laptop with, one mic and stuff. I mean, gear is a tool, and it's cool, and some of it sounds really good and it's very inspiring and does different things, and that's great, But yeah, I mean, I think you got to have that little bit of a renegade spirit and some confidence to just know you can do what you need to do with what you got,
Exactly.
So,
well, I don't want to stay on gear too long, but I do want to ask this question because we have talked about this before when you were looking at getting a console. What was your decision process on the Trident?
Oh, man. So, let me think back here.
Hadn't you already put some money down, like on an API at some point?
Yeah, I was about to say that because, so I've been in my studio now for 10 years, and I was in at least a space before that for 3 years. So the space, so this would have been almost 13 years ago when I leased this space in downtown Sheffield. I put money down on a Sony 3000 series, which is just the next step after the 600.
Right.
It's basically the same console from what I understand. Very similar, I should say.
Right.
Okay, so it was a Sony 3000 series, and long story short, the guy that was going through it started dragging his feet, was taking too long, and I just kind of bailed on it. I just said, look, you know what? Don't worry about it. And so I backed away from that, and I had racks full of outboard preamps, and I had the Pro Control. So I thought, well, I've got different colors of preamps, and that's my console, and then I've got my Pro Control, and that served me well for many years. And
well, that's what I've been doing.
Yeah, and
it works.
It works fine. And then, but every year, once a year, I would start thinking about a console. And I would start thinking,
if you're an engineer and you're serious, you cannot get that out of your head.
You want that centerpiece, but it is a great centerpiece where everything comes through. It's the centerpiece of your studio. And so
that's a really good concept. Yeah. I don't want to just interrupt you, but I've never thought about it that way other than, the centerpiece as far as aesthetic appeal. You know, it's an Instagram, social media, Facebook post. People get to feel cool.
Yep.
It's a branding type of thing. Like, hey, we have this sort of sound, this sort of thing here. But as far as, in my head, mixing.
Yeah.
There is a central focus to me, and I don't even have it plugged up yet.
Yeah.
So
yeah, it is. For me, it's where everything comes in and goes through the console, and you've got your your volume knob for everything there, and it's just a centerpiece. And anyway, about every year I would start thinking about a console, and man, I looked at every different scenario you can think of. I almost bought an 82 series Neve, just like the one at Fame. There was one for sale, and
that's an excellent board.
Well, it is and it's not.
It's a Neve, and it requires a lot of maintenance.
That's the problem with those, and that's what, you can get those for not a whole lot of money, actually.
Really?
You can get those, the 82 series, for not a whole, I think there was one for $20,000, $25,000.
For a Neve, that's not bad.
It is, but the problem with those is they have a proprietary computer that's the busing system, and if that ever goes out, I didn't know that. Yeah, if the computer that controls the busing system ever goes out, you're done.
Oh wow!
Because there's no parts for that; it can't be replaced. So, yeah, but they are a great sounding console. I've cut some great stuff at the one on Fame. So, but anyway, so I put a lot of thought into it. Is the point?
Right.
And I had done one record on an 80B at Sound Emporium Studio B years ago, and I always loved the way that record sounded, and I came to understand that, one of the things like we were talking about a minute ago, not only just the sound of the console and the functionality, but you also want, to impress your customers. And I realized that Trident was a name that was mentioned in the same conversation with Neve or API or SSL.
Which is the same reason why I got this thing.
Yep.
That and Chris Mara, who owns Mara Machines and Welcome 1979 Studio, he's a great dude.
Yeah.
One of the main reasons he loves and is such an advocate for the MCI type stuff is he said, look, a lot of the things you can get, like if you've got a power switch that goes out, you can go to Ace Hardware and get a replacement.
Yeah.
It's not super proprietary. It was built to be able to be maintained over the years. So, yeah. Well, let's move away from gear.
All right.
So you're from Louisiana, and you and James LeBlanc both. Did you guys know each other in Louisiana before you guys moved?
Yeah, we met when we were like 12 or 13 years old, and started playing in a band immediately. Wow! So he's been my musical brother.
That guy
most of my life.
Talented. For those of you that don't know who James LeBlanc is, shame on you. Yeah. Look him up. Yep. He's an incredible songwriter, but oh my God, what a singer and a guitar player. Yep. Like, people don't realize how good that guy is on guitar.
He's something else, man.
Yeah. Wrote Modern Day Bonnie and Clyde. I think him and John Paul White wrote Relentless.
He did, a
bunch
Jason
of stuff.
Aldean,
Yeah. Anyway, so you guys moved here.
Yep.
What was the draw for that? I mean, because that was before all the documentary and all the hype.
Yeah. Okay. It's a long story. I'll try to give you the short version. Every move I've made in my life has been to find a better music scenario. So I left Shreveport when I graduated high school because there was really nothing going on there that I could see that would get me anywhere as a musician. So I moved to Dallas, Texas, and because they had a happening music scene. At that time, Edie Brickell and New Bohemians was happening, and there was just a cool scene there. So I moved there. Stayed there for about 3 years, and then and James, at that time, James LeBlanc, decided he was going to move to Austin. And so I decided to move to Austin with him. So we all moved to Austin. I guess that would have been in 92 or 93. And same thing, moved there to get a better music situation and play on 6th Street in Austin and try to get something going. So we did that. I stayed there for 8 years. James ultimately moved back to Shreveport, but he's really started concentrating on songwriting. So anyway, a mutual friend records an album at Fame in Muscle Shoals, tells Rodney Hall and the people at Fame about a guy in Louisiana named James LeBlanc that they need to check out. And James sends them some stuff, comes over, meets them, and they end up signing him to a production deal and then a publishing deal. And I was still in Austin. He called me and said, man, you got to come check out Muscle Shoals, Alabama. There's a cool studio here called Fame. I didn't know anything about Muscle Shoals or Fame.
Were you engineering at this point?
No, I was a musician. I mean, to be honest with you, at this point, I had gotten married, had a kid, working a day job, and I had a Pro Tools system in my living room that I started messing with.
What version would that have probably been?
I think it was, I mean, dude, I got in from the very beginning. It was like, I think it was, man, I want to say it was 3 or 4. I mean,
because I started using
5. It was.
I started using, I want to say, like 6 or 7.
Yeah.
It was, yeah.
That's a good question. I need to go back and look, but I had a Digi 001 and a Mac G3 computer is what I started on. And I remember you get 8 tracks going and 2 plugins, and the computer would start crashing.
Right. Right. So, and we're complaining about, I've got
5
stupid amount of plugins, and I'm like, oh, my computer, my CPU's crashing, and it's like, well, no crap, you've got 50 plugins. But yeah, so you got up here doing how did the Fame thing happen?
Man, I don't know.
How long did you work for Fame, by the way?
About 3 years.
Yeah.
I mean, part of it was timing. I just got here at the right time. I mean, I showed up. I basically met the folks at Fame and said, hey, if I move over here, because I was just dying to get back in music. I just working a day job was just killing me.
Oh, yeah. Been there, done that. I just went full-time 4 months ago.
Yeah, I needed to be in music, and I knew that. Luckily, my wife knew that, supported me. And the folks at Fame just said, look, if you move over here, you can train and learn for free at our studio. We're not going to pay you anything, but you can learn. Don Shrigley was the engineer at that time.
Don's the man.
And I met Don, and he opened up his world to me and taught me a bunch of stuff. And so it just so happened that he had been the full-time staff engineer at Fame for 10 years, and he was really looking for a change. And so I got here at that time. I worked for free. I busted my ass and really showed him I was serious. Don said, I'm quitting. And I happened to be the guy standing there,
Wow.
And had proven to them that I was willing to work. And so all of a sudden, I'm the staff engineer at Fame. I quit my day job, and here we go,
So, so you were kind of apprenticed by Don.
I was apprenticed by Don and Alan Schulman. And then Alan Schulman.
Okay.
But Don first. Yeah,
Don kind of... I didn't realize this when I was interning at Wishbone back in 2008. There was a lot of stuff going on, demos and whatnot, and jingles and all that kind of stuff going on there.
Yep.
And Don showed me, like, here's what I do to drums when I track and when I mix and all this. And we didn't really know each other. In fact, he's the reason I bought that Rode NT2A mic, because I bought my little M-Box off of Mike McGuire, that was the manager there at the time, drummer from Shenandoah.
Yeah.
And I gave him like $150 for that. And he had the Pro Tools disc and all that, and I uploaded it on my computer, and I had like two $15 mics.
Yeah.
And it was just sucking.
Yeah.
It was sounding bad. And I was like, dude, I've got a budget. What can I get $400 or $500? And he's like, no contest, get that.
Yeah.
And so I did, and thus began my recording saga. And So Don's a good dude, and I didn't realize at the time that Don really didn't show people stuff unless he really liked you.
Yeah, maybe that's true. My experience,
or at least that's what I've heard.
Well, my experience was the same as yours. I mean, he really helped me a lot. And he taught me a lot, and was pretty much an open book. I mean, but I can see that about. I mean, Don's a very to himself guy. He's not a, he's not. Well,
he's your classic mix engineer personality, where he goes to his hobbit hole and mixes.
I want to do that sometime.
Right. But okay, so you worked. I know the Heartland thing. Right? You tracked that.
Yeah,
right?
I tracked that. Yeah,
and that was Loved Her First, right?
Yeah, I Loved Her First was number one.
Yeah,
I never saw that coming, man. Wow.
So you see, when you were doing it, you weren't like, "Wow, this was special."
No, man. Walt Aldridge called me and said, "There's a band from Huntsville that wants me to help them cut some tracks, and they want to cut a few of my songs."
Oh, cool. So was that a Walt song?
Yeah, Walt wrote that song.
I didn't realize that.
Oh, yeah. Walt produced it and wrote most of the songs on their first album.
Well, I knew he produced it, but I didn't realize he wrote that song.
He wrote I Loved Her First. Yeah, he co-wrote it. But, and we cut, I don't remember, man, 4 or 5 songs, maybe 6 the first time. And, no offense to the Heartland guys, I don't think they would take offense to this, because they were just getting started, but it was not great. I mean, they were having a difficult time in the studio, really getting great tracks, like to the standard of being, a competitive record.
That's
nice guys and all.
That's a learning curve.
It's a learning curve.
And getting used to headphones and getting used to just
all that stuff,
all the blinking lights, and it can be overwhelming.
Yeah. So we cut tracks, and one of them was I Loved Her First. And, I mean, it was just another session for me. They came and went, and it was gone.
In your defense in that, we hear a lot of really good songs here in this town, because it's a songwriter town,
Absolutely.
Just like Nashville is. So, and there's a lot of people that come through that aren't from here that's like, wow, holy crap, that's amazing.
Yeah.
So I hate to say this in this way, and I hope it doesn't come across wrong, but it's easy to be like, that's just another really good song. Yeah. And that just goes to show you how the level of talent, and how many songs for something to reach the charts really is a big deal, because there's a lot of songs that were as good or maybe even better that didn't get on the chart. Yeah. So there's a lot that it has to go through.
Yeah, but it is a great song. It really is. Yeah. And that taught me the power of a song of wow, and so they took the tracks to Nashville, and Walt redid his vocals and overdubbed and fixed and mixed, and then 6 months later he called me and said, "Remember that band Heartland?" And I was like, "I think so." And he said, "They got a a charting single, you know.
That's amazing.
And so they came back and we cut the rest of the record. But
that's awesome.
Yeah.
So what were some other things like that the notable like that?
Well, let's see here. I started working on some Jimmy Buffett records through my connection with Alan Shulman, and got to meet Mac and Alan, get in that world, and I was assisting. Actually, right when I quit, or actually even before I quit Fame and went on my own, even before that, I started working on some Buffett records. Because sometimes Alan Shulman's assistant wasn't available, and we had become friends, and so he started using me, and so I got to, fly down to Key West on Buffett's private plane and work in
That's cool.
his private studio in Key West for 2 weeks. Cutting
Did
tracks.
you find that lost shaker?
No, I didn't.
You didn't find the lost shaker of salt?
I didn't, but anyway, yeah, man. So I don't know. I'm trying to think of any other notable stuff. We were doing Jason Isbell records. We were working on Jason's first record,
The Sirens of the Ditch.
Sirens of the Ditch.
Were you engineer on that?
Oh yeah, I engineered the whole thing.
Dude, that's actually my favorite record of his.
Yeah,
it's raw and it just rocks.
Yeah. We cut that. We started cutting that record. Rodney had signed him to a publishing deal at Fame. And he collected a bunch of songs, and we started working on a Jason Isbell solo record. And I can't remember how many songs we cut. I want to clarify this with him at some point, but we cut a few tracks, and then all of a sudden he gets the Drive-By Truckers gig and hits the road. And it's, so basically his first album is kind of, let's say, halfway done. He goes on the road with Drive-By Truckers, and then when he departs from the Truckers, he comes back and we finish the record. And so that record set kind of half finished for a while he toured with the Truckers. And then we eventually came back and finished it. Yeah.
That one's got such just an edge and a rawness to it.
Yeah, Dave Barbie mixed it. I went up to Athens, Georgia, and just hung out while Dave Barbie mixed it at his place. But one of the cool things that happened recently was I think New West owns that record. New West re-released it, and they added 2 tracks that we had cut at Fame, which I thought were super cool that Jason didn't put on the original album.
Was it put out on vinyl or,
I don't know.
Or digital?
Maybe
or
it was just,
how was it?
I don't know. Recently I saw it. I don't remember, but I
need to look into that because that's actually my favorite record.
It's Sirens of the Ditch, and it's got bonus tracks. There's a song called Whisper.
Awesome.
It's really cool, and I forget the other one, but there were a couple of cool tracks that just been sitting on the shelf at Fame for years that we cut.
Wow.
Yeah.
And that happens so much. It's like you work on something and it never gets the light of day, It's like, man, if this would just get out there.
Yep.
And, you develop an intuition of like, if they would just release this song, man, that's all they got to do is put it out there.
Yeah.
But, things happen, know. But so when you left Fame, what was the motive to that? Were you just like, I'm ready to do my own thing?
No, and actually, I left because I had to. What happened was I was the staff engineer. At that time, Fame was mainly a publishing company. Okay?
Right.
That was their main deal. There were not, Studio A sat empty. There was never
even
anybody.
When Ben Tanner was down there engineering, it was Studio B was always in operation because it was the one with the Pro Tools rig.
That's right.
Like I think, am I right? That all they had
there was
in
no
A,
Pro Tools in A.
I think they had it to just like a 002 or something,
at one point,
to print your tape or something.
At one point, but when I was hired, when I was on staff at Fame, they didn't. There was no Pro Tools in A. It was just tape, and. So I worked for the publishing company. The publishing, they really grew. They kind of aggressively grew the publishing company. They had an office in Nashville. They had a little small studio in Nashville. They had 10 staff writers. They had song pluggers, and man, they hit a little bump, and they had to let several people go, and I was one of them. And Rodney came to me. He was heartbroken because we had become friends, and he hated to do it, but So I was
the nature of business too.
It was, and in the back of my mind, I started thinking, I wanted my own place. I wanted to have my own studio, so that was already there. I probably would have been there longer. I probably wouldn't have left at that time, but it forced me to do something. And I set up a studio in my house, and I had already worked on some cool records that got some notoriety, and I had people calling me. And so I kept on working, man,
Well, that's kind of like here recently, a couple of weeks ago, this episode won't be uploaded for a few months, but because I'm trying to build a backlog.
Sure.
But a couple of weeks ago, we had that massive flood down here in the Shoals, and water did not get in the building, but there was a little fear of it, putting the sandbags out and everything. And I lifted everything up off the floor and unplugged a bunch of stuff, which I needed to unplug everything with my recording and mix rig anyway, so that I could bring this console down here. And I needed to move everything so I could have the spot open to put it, because there was really only one spot I can put it in here, right? Yeah. And that forced my hand. And I was in mix world, trying to get caught up. Because I don't know if you're ever caught up. No, I guess that's not a thing.
You don't want to get caught up.
I guess that's a good point, Because I'm like, oh, God, I wish I could get caught up. But no, I don't really think I do. But, it forced my hand to be like, you know what, now's a great time. Let's just move this thing down here. Sure. Because I had everything already unhooked.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, man.
But, so you did your thing, moved down there. I remember going down there, and I think I kind of helped you with wiring your patch bay or something.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Remember?
Yeah. Well, the first thing I did was to put a studio in my house. You're talking about when I moved to downtown Sheffield.
When you were downtown.
Yeah.
Okay, so you moved to the house first.
Yeah, I had a studio in a bedroom in my house. The first record I did was a Scooter Muse record. He did a solo record. We did that in my house, but I did a bunch of stuff at the house. I can't remember what all, but several records. And I was busy all the time, mixing and recording. And
well, let me ask you about that. That's kind of its own little tangent in and of itself.
Yeah.
Having a home studio. Mm-hmm. See, I started out with my studio in a bedroom in the home. Of course, I didn't have near the gear. Right. I wasn't near as good.
Right.
And that was 10 years ago, last October.
Yeah.
And, I had, for a little while, I had 2 inputs. So it was embarrassingly a studio. Yeah. But I wanted to go in and get the name established because I was in full intent on building it.
Sure.
And, and I did some cool recordings, but then I moved it to downtown Decatur on 2nd Avenue, and that was a cool thing. And it got a 003 unit, and some extra pre's and stuff, and, just kind of build and build and build. And at one point I moved my studio back to the house for a little while, and it was like I never got anything done in the studio or at home. Yeah. It was like laundry always needed folding, but everything got halfway done.
Right.
It was like getting out of the house forced me like, okay, I need to get this done before I go home.
Yeah.
I don't know, it was a mental thing for me. Did you ever struggle with anything like that?
A little bit. I struggled more with just having so many people in and out of my house, and my wife just going, "Oh, hi, how you doing?"
Like, who are you?
Yeah,
right? Well, how did you maintain that? You just did it?
Yeah, I just had to plan a little bit. Luckily we got a little space in our house, and the neighbors, didn't complain. And I had a drum set. I basically took over 2 bedrooms in our house, and one had a drum set in it, and the other had my control room in it. And I just went to work, But yeah, it was much better having a studio outside the home for sure.
Well, my thing was I didn't have any work-life balance.
Yeah.
It was like nothing got done.
Right.
It was, everything was screaming from me. It's like I'm sitting here trying to mix, and I'm looking, like I said, man, I need to vacuum.
Yeah.
I'm vacuuming, and I'm like, I need to mix. Yeah. And it's just,
sure.
But so my head never was fully engaged in what it needed to be.
Sure.
So when I moved out, when I started getting a lot better.
Sure.
Work and results. So when you moved, so how did that change your business?
When I moved into my house or moved out of my house?
Out of your house.
Well, I
guess let me back up. you're out of fame.
Yep.
3 years, people in the town have already kind of gotten to know you and know you're good.
Yep.
So you didn't have to prove yourself. You'd already done that.
Yep.
But, you said you were busy. Was there any problem getting clients? Was there ever a moment of like, oh, crap, I've got to pay this bill at the end of the month? Or did it just work?
It worked. I definitely wasn't making as much money because I had a salary at Fame, and I knew what I was making, and we could get by on that, and it was fine. Like I said, in addition to having a home studio, I was working with Mac McAnally and Alan Shulman quite a bit too, and
you were doing freelance stuff.
I was doing freelance stuff.
Yeah,
I was doing freelance stuff and had the bedroom studio, but it just worked, and I don't remember how long that went on, but I found a spot to lease in a building in downtown Sheffield. And at that time, downtown Sheffield was a ghost town, complete ghost town.
Absolutely.
We're experiencing a revitalization right now, but there was nothing going on, which was fine for a studio.
Right. That was a cool spot.
It was a cool spot. I cut some cool records in there, and it was great. I leased a space from a guy named Ralph Rhodes who had owned that building forever, and there was a really cool live music hall in that building that I kind of put tie lines in.
You used to put your drums in there.
Sometimes I did,
I remember that.
Yeah. So I actually kind of learned a lesson in that, because you think, oh man, I've got this huge, big room. The drums are going to sound huge in here. And they really didn't.
Really?
No. And I realized really a lot of times, a smaller room with highly reflective surfaces is going to sound bigger than a big room that's been treated and somewhat dead.
Yeah, that's like if you look at a lot of these echo chambers, they're shellacked walls or they're tile or some sort of really reflective something.
Yeah.
And it's really tiny.
Yeah. So anyway.
Yeah. But yeah, that was a cool little spot. So when you decided to make the move to the old bank where you're at now.
Yes.
So that's one of the coolest studios around here. It's such a cool place. It's comfortable, it's vibey, it's roomy.
Thank you. Well, the spot I was in before that, we were leasing and renting, and I've just always wanted to own. I wanted to own my own building and have my own space. And so I just kind of was keeping my eye open for buildings, possible buildings to buy and put a studio in. And the bank building that I'm in now, I just noticed it one day. I was just driving around and thought, man, I've never even noticed this building before. It was kind of grown up in front, and it had been empty for over a year, for sale, just empty, just sitting there. And it was a church before that. And so anyway, I started inquiring about it and ended up making a deal and buying it. And that was 10 years ago. And I had to keep my other studio open. It took me 6 months to remodel and get it ready to move in and go to work. And so
that's a weird, hard transition.
It was because I was still working. I still had a workload at my other studio.
Right, you can't stop the work because that's your income.
Yeah, so
it's like if I that's kind of like I was saying a little while ago. If I unplug everything, I can't work.
Yeah,
but because of the flood, I had a little bit of a legit excuse, like, hey guys, I had to unplug all this stuff.
Give me a second.
Give me a minute. And everybody was real gracious. But you can't deny, hey, there's a lot, the river's almost at the door.
That's right. That's right. Yeah.
Hey, Dan's he's here. So I'm going to go let him in.
Sure. Sounds good.